That Aranea, she's a little different.
Certainly doesn't fit the Imperial Army profile.
Anything happen while I was gone?
Yeah, the car got roomier.
Smart ass.
Videos like Zoella, PewDiePie, or their
Final Fantasy XV is one of the most visually stunning games of the generation, but the demands of the Luminous Engine power unit could often prove too much for limited console hardware, which is where the new PC version of the game comes in. With the potential for improved visuals and faster performance, the PC platform finally allows us to experience the game at its best. And today in part 1 of our coverage, we'll be exploring the game's visual settings in great detail, checking out the PC exclusive features, while stacking it up against the console version. And to do that, I'm joined by our new PC expert, Alex Battaglia.
Hello, John.
Are you ready to discuss some Final Fantasy 15?
Definitely.
Alright, so the first thing I want to do is talk about our objectives in this test and kind of how we went about testing it. So for me, I decided to focus on the high-end experience. So I'm running this on an i9 system, the 7900X, paired with a GTX Titan XP with 16 gigabytes of memory right now. And I believe Alex is going for the more mid to upper mid-tier hardware here.
That's right, John. I'm running right now a Ryzen 1700X, both at 3.4 gigahertz and 4.0 gigahertz. That is both also with 8 and 16 gigabytes of RAM for different styles of testing. This is all, of course, running on an SSD. And for AMD, I have an MSI RX 580 with a slight factory overclock. And for NVIDIA, I have a GTX 1070, also at stock.
Excellent. Okay, well, before jumping into the details, I want to discuss then the visuals on display here. Even on the consoles, this really is a truly gorgeous looking game. But I do feel like the additional options and features available on the PC version has a significant impact on the presentation in a positive way.
Yeah, I mean, the higher resolution options that you're just given on PC bring the art out fuller, and based upon the camera distances that the game tends to play at, you know, behind your character, at higher resolutions you can just see more of that detail. It's quite wonderful.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like this might be one of the best looking PC games I've played to date, just in terms of the visual features, the lighting on display, and just the overall sense of scale and detail.
It feels huge, John. You're just walking around in the forests or out in the fields with grass flowing next to you, and it just is a wonderful looking game. I do agree with you. I think it is actually currently, right now, the best looking game that you can buy on PC.
That's excellent. So, now the port is quite demanding, but before we get into all the features and options, I think we need to talk about some of the basics of the PC version, such as resolution, the frame rate support, and, you know, PC quality of life features. So on the resolution side, I think it's important to note that ultra-wide support is in, and it looks wonderful.
We should be good now.
I would also say that we have support for arbitrary resolutions, as I'm able to set any sort of custom resolutions, and they're all appearing here, and they do work.
And the game also has its own internal scaler, allowing you to drop between 50, 75%, 125%, etc., up to 200% of whatever resolution you choose in the menu itself.
But of course, as we'll discuss shortly, this is a game that is very sensitive to resolution in terms of performance.
Indeed.
Now, on the frame rate side, the game does offer support for high frame rates, which is great, but it does appear to be capped at 120 frames per second max.
Yeah, we couldn't test it directly because we both do not have 144, 240, or 165 hertz monitors, but it seems internally capped at 120 FPS, whether you go to the default setting or the selectable 120 FPS setting.
Exactly. And another thing to note, that the internal frame rate cap does not appear to function very well, and when using it, like say if you're at 60 hertz and you enable the 30 FPS cap, you get the same bad frame pacing issues that we saw on the PlayStation 4 version. Okay,
yeah,
then.
See, the
moving
frame
on,
pacing
Alex,
is what
why don't you
matters.
Tell us about
you know
the
what I
quality
mean?
of life features included in the PC version. I've been playing with a gamepad, but I believe you're using mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, per typical, even though this is a game that I think is really going to be great on a gamepad, I just like trying out the mouse and keyboard options in a game always, and I think they're
this
really
game
good.
Is fantastic.
You have a ton of customizability in terms of all the controls you want.
Because, you know, PC
but there are some
Master
downsides. You cannot navigate the menus with a mouse, for example. You have the ability by pressing F1 to activate the mouse cursor on screen, but it doesn't really seem to do anything. You can't select anything when using it. It just shows the mouse cursor. You have the ability to, as well, customize your function keys, your F1s through F8, but F9 through F12 are not. And if you, like a lot of people on PC, use external tools, OSDs, anything like that, and you have, or even just NVIDIA's tools, for example, for recording the game, those are usually mapped to the higher function keys, and the game has its own preset higher function key settings.
So it sounds like a mixed bag then, mostly good with a few little limitations.
And yeah, I think, and also the gameplay itself maps pretty well to a keyboard and mouse, like hitting F for certain things, or blocking with right mouse button. I think it all works really well.
I did experiment a little bit with the new first-person view.
Should be able to now.
Added to the most
For certain things, or
version of the game,
blocking
which is
with
pretty cool,
right
actually.
mouse button. I think it all works really well.
So
I did experiment
I haven't
a little
even
bit
looked
with
at the
the new
mapping on the
first
keyboard,
person
but if you
Should be able to
double-click,
now.
click in,
Oh my
click in,
god, the audio
you
quality's
can
shit.
Run around in first person. I've done this with both the mouse and keyboard and the gamepad, and there's no view bobbing or anything like that.
Oh, I
It
was
does
curious
feel a
about
little
that.
weird in combat, but it's kind of a neat feature, and it does allow you to get up close and personal with some of the visual features on display, which I kind of feel like is where we're going to go next in this discussion, because the options menu
Okay, how about right here?
loaded with things to tweak.
This should be good.
I feel like is where
I'm a
we're
big
going
fan
to
of
go
this
next
options
in this
menu, John.
discussion,
You can feel
because
that,
the
right?
options
I'm a big
menu, yeah, and most of it is
Okay, how about
in the asset
Dude, what the
feature.
fuck?
You can adjust most of this
Why does it
without
sound
having to leave the game, which is
What the
absolutely
fuck
key,
is
I think, to
this?
tweaking your performance.
I sound
Okay,
so
I feel
digital.
like we should break this down into 3 different groups. I want to talk first about the few settings that are heavier on the CPU side, then the GPU heavy settings, and then of
What?
course NVIDIA's GameWorks and how it fares on both NVIDIA and AMD hardware. So let's start with the CPU settings. So what did you find here?
Here, rather typical things that affect CPU. There's not a lot of tweakable